everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Seed Masterclass. So my name is Abhishek, and as you all know, Seed is a masterclass where we get in people from different industries, industry experts, heads of organizations, and talk to us about how they see their businesses evolve in the current system. Today we have someone with us who is not from India, but he is as Indian as we can get. He came down here in 2008 and just never went back. He lives in Mumbai, loves cricket and loves the country too. He's a personal hero of mine from the 26/11 attacks in Bombay, where he and his colleagues saved the lives of 150 people, 150 guests at the Taj Hotel when the terrorists struck Mumbai, India's financial capital. He's an expert on closed body protection, and he has been personally responsible for the safety of some very high-profile visitors to India, and of course a lot of the cricketers when he was in charge of the security at the IPL. Let's say hi to Zane Wilmans, former South African commando and the managing director of Protex Risk Management. Hey Zane, how are you doing?
Abhishek, it's good to see you virtually and to be on your program here.
Thanks so much, Zane. Welcome to see you. I've just given a short introduction about you to all our viewers over here. But could you tell us a little bit in more detail what is it exactly that a closed body protection expert does?
Sure. Well, our company, we specialize in corporate security mostly. That's our main business. So we deal with mostly corporate travelers, Fortune 500 companies, a lot, delegations. And these delegations, these corporates, they, as part of their security protocol for their travelers, they will organize what you would call close protection or executive protection, or more commonly known now, travel protection.
All right.
So it's part of their protocol, but this is what they do when they travel anywhere around the world. And of course, India is one of those places. We as a company, Protex, we don't just operate in India, we operate all over Asia and some parts of Africa. Obviously, I've done other things with celebrities, sports events. I've done multiple IPLs. I did the Soccer World Cup, Cricket World Cup, and many others. But that's just a small encapsulation of what I do and what our company does.
Okay. When I got in touch with you, I told you that the reason why I thought of getting in touch with you was I was watching this documentary called The Last Dance, and I was watching how Michael Jordan was being protected by his close range of guards. And it struck me, I need to get Zane up on Instagram Live on Seal so that we can have this conversation. But when I look back at the 1990s, it was much more relaxed. And you've been part of the IPL where Michael Jordan pales in comparison to the celebrity status that Indian cricketers have. How challenging was it? Being a very close component of the whole IPL security setup in the country.
So, as we all know, India, they love cricket, okay? So the Indian cricket players are superstars in themselves, of course. Sachin Tendulkar, who I've had the pleasure of meeting and being with and spending time with. I was with the Mumbai Indians cricket team way back when they switched the venue to South Africa on the second one. India, the cricket is unique in India because yes, all these major sports stars, for example, in America, all over the world, soccer players, they also have a very high status. But when it comes to cricket in India, it's off the scale. The people absolutely love their cricket players, especially heroes, big heroes like Sachin, like Virat Kohli, and so on, and also international cricket players like Brett Lee or some other people like that. So. Because of the large population of India and just the sheer excitement, it's the crowds that you're having to deal with. And a lot of things that people don't realize or don't know about our job is that there seems to be this thing where people think that with security, you just arrive on the day and then you just sort of do your job right there on the spot. And of course, in India, they call them bouncers or what have you. But I mean, our type of work that we do is far removed from that. So we pride ourselves on basically doing the kind of job and what we did with IPL and the things that go on behind the scenes. So there's a lot of planning involved, a lot of advanced planning. We use a lot of technology, which people don't see, advanced surveillance technology and counter surveillance. it's a lot of things that people just don't see. But the crowds and the crushing, that's very, very hard to manage. But of course, this is what we do, and we manage it.
For instance, let's just say there's a cricketer you're responsible for his security during the IPL, and when he has an off day, he sort of wants to go around town. So how challenging is it for you to map out his day? Because do you give him permission? Yeah, you can go to X place, you can go to Y place, you can't go to this place. Does it work that way?
It's a cooperation. So when you're working with your clients, your principals, we call them, it's a cooperation. So the first step is to gain and establish trust and respect between each other. Because you're trying to do a job, you're trying to make sure your job is to basically keep them safe, period. That's what it is. So most of the time, 99.99% of the time, there's always that respect there. And they understand that you're there to do a job for them. And so they will share with you their movements or they intend to do and plan to do, which gives us enough time to, if we're in a team, to move ahead and do a job and plan, sterilize an area or move accordingly, and also with the convoys and so on and so forth. It's much more intricate than people tend to to realize what it's about.
What's the craziest experience you've had at the IPL?
Of the IPL? I couldn't tell you on this format, I'm afraid, Abhishek.
And the game of the player, obviously, because you can't do that. But when have there been players who had stalkers come around and just camp outside the hotel or outside their rooms for certain amounts of time?
We've had stalkers. We've had setups where, for example, unscrupulous people, what they'll do is, let's say, for example, you walk into a lobby and you've got one of the top players with you, and there'll be somebody in the corner of the room somewhere with a camera, and then there'll be this lady or ladies who rush up to the player or players and make it look like they're fans, and they just want to have a photograph with the fans. And sometimes the players will, of course, most of the players are very gracious and they will always want to take that photograph. But in the corner of my eye, I'm seeing a cameraman from a distance. And at the last minute, you can see what the girl's going to do. She's going to try to bring her leg up and try and kiss the player on the cheek, make that photograph go viral. And that's just one example of many things that happen. I can tell you a funny story. I'm not going to tell you who it is, but it was a very famous cricket player. And the bus was about to pull off, to go for a match, and an international match. And we're like, where is this guy X? Looking everywhere. Knock on the door, and eventually, have to go down to hotel security, get the key, and there he is sleeping away. And shake him up, just completely delirious. Gets from the time he was in bed to the time he got on the field was within 1.5 hours, and he actually went on to score a huge total.
Okay, all right. You've done some amazing, very, very risky stuff over the course of your career. You are responsible for other people's safety, for other people's lives. How often are you worried about your own safety?
How concerned am I about my own safety? To be honest with you, it doesn't really register when I'm planning or I'm going ahead or doing any job. Once I've accepted a job, I mean, for example, the sports jobs, or any job there is an element of risk, of course, because you're going to be potentially putting yourself in harm's way. But let's say the non-commercial jobs, various other jobs where you're going into much more difficult situations or countries or scenarios. Obviously, you're going through it in the back of your mind, and you're planning and you're thinking ahead about what about this, and always planning ahead. I think fear for anybody is a good thing. Everyone should have fear, because fear is something that keeps us alive. But it's a question of how we manage our fear. And I think it's very pertinent to the situation we will find ourselves in right now. And I would say to anybody and anyone that's watching this is that I have been through some fearful or difficult times, but it's a question of turning the fear into a positive, turning a negative into a positive. And these times will pass, and human beings are extremely resilient. We are able to adapt to our situation, even if you're going through anxiety or fear or worry or whatever it might be. It can be used as a time to dig deep and then find new avenues, a new you. You can get closer to many things in your life. For example, you can get closer to God. You could develop your soul. So it's always about growing in times of fear like this.
Speaking about the current times you're living in, we always thought when a situation like this apocalypse would come down, there'd be zombies running about in the street and people going completely crazy. Did you ever think that we'd all be sitting at home and our best form of protection is not to be going out, not to be meeting people and keeping a safe distance from all of us?
Did I ever think this would happen? The situation we find ourselves in, do you think to be very frank with you, no, I don't think so. I don't think any of us really saw it coming. You look at various things that go on in life, and I'm always constantly planning ahead and thinking of the scenarios and so on. And these pandemics, or this potential pandemic, has always sort of been a potential. We've had H1N1, we've had swine flu, and
SARS.
It comes up, SARS, it comes up, and then everyone sort of, I think what's happened is we've had these things in the last 10 years, or maybe even 15 years, quite consistently, these various different viruses and what have you. But it comes, and then it kind of goes. We've seen it, and I think a lot of people were caught off guard as well, thinking, well, it's going to be exactly the same scenario. Unfortunately, it played out as we can see right now. It's really devastating across the world. I'm actually more concerned about, and I'll be very frank and honest with you, I'm more concerned about the long-term effects of shutting the economy down, because poverty kills too. And look at the millions and millions of migrants in India, which really saddens me. I mean, where they've just been abandoned and just dropped and left, to their own devices to get back. And then there's all these different laws and rules in India where you can't do this, you can't do that. They don't know how to get home. You see people crowding themselves into tempo buses to get here to UP or to Bihar or wherever it might be. And I think that's a major failure of the government. And I will be critical about it, because thousands of people have already died trying to get home.
So, in going ahead, how do you guard yourself against an invisible threat? Because you would have scenarios where you plan for lakhs of people coming in to meet a celebrity, or getting a person out into a country where it's not exactly safe. But you know what to do over there. How do you guard yourself against an invisible threat?
Well, it's a really good question, because of course we're all going to have to adapt to, and I put this here as the new normal. They keep on using that word, the new normal, but it doesn't actually change much for me, to be honest with you. It doesn't change much for me or what we do, and I'll tell you why. And that is that again, going back to what I said previously, is that a lot of the work we do is actually virtual anyway. It's when you set up a team, it's not always about people being on top of each other. We see it with celebrities where you've got 10 bouncers and they're all walking very close proximity to whoever it might be. But again, most of our work is a lot of virtual work and a lot of surveillance and out, from different bubbles. So what we do is we create one internal bubble, a second or third bubble, or zones, as you might call it, or what have you. The only thing that might change, obviously you're going to have some people close still to your clients, but we're going to have to adapt and change that method. And I can see a scenario in the future where when we're looking at principals or for delegations, what's going to happen in the future very soon, right now, and it's already happening, but it's going to happen, it's going to be across the board, is every single agent that we use, including myself maybe, will have to have a COVID-19 test before we put ourselves in front of the principal. I've got a feeling that's going to happen. Now, people might say, well, how come? Because it takes 2-3 days or however they're already working on the antibody testing, and that will very quickly, and you will see what I'm saying, very, very quickly become just a 2 or 3 minute test.
All right.
For example, when we all fly in the future, and I'm going to tell you this right now, you know when they do like a diabetes test or a blood sugar test, so they'll have developed a test within the next month, 2-3 months, where when you go to the airport, it'll be an immediate test within 2-3 up to 5 minutes, maybe max. It'll be part of your check-in procedure, and then when you land on the other side, it could be the same thing also, to negate or to change these 14-day quarantine issues. Because imagine India, for example, is not to a larger degree than many other countries, but it still has a fairly large portion of tourism. Imagine if now, I'm sure it's lakhs and lakhs of people that come to India on for tourism basis.
2% of our economy is based on tourism. Yeah, so we have around, I think, around 40 to 50 million people, 3 to 4 crore people who come down to India every year as tourists.
Exactly. I mean, think about Agra. Think about the Taj Mahal and so many other places. If a tourist was coming to India and then they were saying, well, when you arrive here, you're going to be quarantined for 14 days in a government facility. I'm sorry, but who's going to come?
Yeah, no one will.
So the only, and that's the same for every country. So what's the only solution is doing the antibody testing so that you can get an immediate result. That's it. That's the only way forward. And it also tells people or the government or the travel agencies and so on whether or not you have a certificate, whether you have the antibodies in you, i.e. if you've already caught the virus, and then you're safe to be in the public. And the third thing I'll just add on that is that every single country, practically every single country, and we've already got it in India, I think, excuse me for the pronunciation if it's wrong, but Arugya Setu app?
Yeah, the Arugya Setu app, yeah.
Okay, so every country's going to have this app, and this app will be tied to your social media. Very important. It'll be tied, so for example, this platform, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and so on. And my only concern is that it'll end up going down the road of China, where it'll become a social credit scoring system. But that's for another time.
Right now, we've got to be safe, so that's what we're going to be looking at. Speaking of tourism and the hotel business, I remember having a conversation with you when you entered an Indian hotel. I won't mention the name of the hotel, but it was a 5-star organization where you walked in with a bunch of contraband and no one checked you. Could you recount that whole experience for us?
Sorry, I'm just having a coffee here. Yeah, it's so after 26/11, what happened was all the major 5-star hotels, and in fact even 4-star hotels and many other places, they of course immediately ramped up their security. Okay? Because a disaster had happened, and then they ramped up the security. They put the retractable bollards there. You've got the people with the wands, security with the wands, the dogs, and so on, and everything else. The problem is that people have got very short attention spans and they forget too quickly. And for example, they're just too lazy to even click the button that brings the bollards up and down. And giving you an example, if I were to be a terrorist and I have a bomb in my car and I pull up to the entrance of the hotel and the bollard is down, am I going to be polite and say, yes, you can check my car? I'm not. I'm going to keep on driving and I'm going to go straight up. So that negates every single thing that they're trying to do, which means it's pretend security. So there's a lot of pretend, and I don't know what the Indian word is for it, but pretend sort of show what you're doing is right, but it actually doesn't work.
And I know I've asked you this question before. We did a huge story on it back when I was a journalist. But on the whole 26/11 experience, are you still in touch with any of those people from 13 years back?
I can't say I'm not in touch with them. I've been to the Taj many times since then. I've had dinner there and I've stayed there actually a few times. But no, I haven't stayed in touch with those people, sadly, or anything like that, except for maybe a couple of my former colleagues that were there on that night.
Do you guys still recall that experience and how the whole thing was whenever you guys I don't know, right now get together on a Zoom call?
I'm sorry, say that again, please.
Do you guys recall that experience ever? Or is it, we're done with it and then that's it?
I don't think about it, I'll be very frank with you. It doesn't really come across my mind. I mean, that was quite a few years ago. Very shortly afterwards, of course, you relive it a little bit, go through it, have I done maybe better or this or that, or you analyze again, then you put it in the memory bank, and then you think, okay, that's a good training experience. But I don't really dwell on it or think about it, if that makes any sense.
I remember you having a conversation with Sham, the founder of Bayside and Keep, where you given him a couple of lead tips and tricks to guard yourself against another potential attack. Like always sit facing the entrance door so that you know who's coming in and out. Any couple of more tips and tricks that to all the young people listening to us? Quick tips just to make sure that you're doing a once over.
Absolutely. I'll try and encapsulate it for everyone so that this really helps people in their life. I think that's what we need to get for. So this situation that we're in right now is a perfect example where it can take people off guard. It can take people off guard, and then we think, oh my God, what are we going to do? How do we do this? In all fairness, we're all in the same boat, and this is a different situation. But for every other situation, I'll just give you an example. It's helpful in general in life for anybody to be aware of their surroundings. Period. For example, if you walk into a restaurant, try and pick a seat where you are facing the door from a distance so you can see who's coming in and coming out. Have a little bit of awareness. Know where the bathroom is. Know if there is a second exit. See if there's a fire extinguisher somewhere. I mean, it might sound very boring and very, extreme or something, but I do it automatically, and it's done within 5 seconds in my head. But the reason why I'm saying that is because if you live in a state of awareness all the time, and this can be translated, by the way, to your job, the work you do. If you are more aware than your colleagues or potential, let's say you go for a job interview and you're up against the other 100 people, but you have extra awareness and you have attention to detail. I would say that attention to detail in life is everything. My biggest tip to everyone would be attention to detail is everything. And what I've noticed is that a lot of people, they'll put a lot of work into their studies. They'll write down in the books and they'll mug everything, perfectly. And they go and take an exam and they'll pass the exam. And they go out with a certificate and they then think to themselves, great, I'm going to get a job. I've got my certificate, I've got my qualification, I've got my degree, I have everything. You don't have everything. That's just half of it.
All right.
The other half is the personal attention to detail, the grooming, the way you talk, the way you hold yourself, so the attention to detail in the room. You may notice, for example, what your interviewer is wearing, or there are small little things that you can do to impress that interviewer and attain better growth in life. And most people are missing that attention to detail. And that would be my biggest thing to say to anybody is attention to detail is the most important thing. So yeah, going back to your question, translating that to when you go, having awareness, just looking at is there a second exit if I need to get out? Yes, it's over there. Okay, where's the bathroom? It's over here. When you go to a hotel and you check in for the night, on the back of the door is a fire escape van. How many people actually look at that?
I've never taken it. I have taken a look at it, never looked at it.
Not many people do, right? But it's right there. So when I check into a hotel, what does it cost me? It costs me a minute of my day. When I check in, I look at the back and I look at the fire escape, and I actually walk there and I check where the fire escape is, so that if there's a fire, I know cognitively that I already know that it's there. So if I get woken up in the middle of the night, it's not, oh my God, where do I go? What do I do? This, that, the other. It's, I already know because I've already gone, and that's part of the job that we do too. It's just pre-planning.
Talking about interviews and when people go and get jobs, what are the skill sets that you would recommend people develop if they're looking to get into this security game?
If people want to get into the security?
Yeah.
Okay, so I will say this first of all, and see, in UK, in Europe, South Africa, America, If you're a security professional, it's a profession, meaning that you take it seriously and people get paid accordingly for that. But it means you have to be qualified and you have to have attention to detail, and then you get paid accordingly. The problem in India, and I'll be very frank and honest with you, is that when you say security in India, what do people immediately think? They think guarding.
Got it.
Or watchman. Am I correct or not?
Pretty much, yeah. Maybe security.
People don't see it as a profession, but I can tell you it absolutely is. And it's a profession that can be extremely rewarding if you want a challenge, and one day is never the same, or 1 week is never the same, 1 month is never the same. You can really get into this, and you can make good money. I'll be very frank with you. It's not a question of, this is a really low paid job, or it's this, or a low skill job. Absolutely not. Not what we do.
Yeah,
I'm talking about executive. When you're in the executive security field, it is an extremely rewarding job. So it takes discipline, physical discipline, mental discipline, but that translates over to your life, which helps you. For example, my job and the way I think in my job, I believe, has helped me during this situation.
Apart from actually being a physical presence in the closed body business, you say you use a lot of technology. So how many people from the tech field, what's the future of techies when it comes to security? I'm sure there'll be a lot of interesting things that they'll be responsible too for, right?
Absolutely. The future is technology. We all know it. It's all technology. So, for example, we use drones for tracking and advanced work in multiple different countries, and then we also have a cyber division as well, where we with cyber security. That business has grown exponentially in the past 4 to 5 years for us. So it's a broad spectrum. To make it clear also to people is that if people are looking at me, what have you, I'm kind of a biggish guy, right? But it doesn't actually matter. Okay, I want to make this really clear: is that if you want to be a security professional, it's in your mind, it's your planning skills, it's not a physical game necessarily. Yes, you have to be physically fit, and it helps to maybe be fit and all this kind of thing. Absolutely, you have to be fit, but you don't have to be, looking like John Cena or something, or whatever the case might be. So it's complex, but very rewarding.
You've known Sham and me for the last 11 years. You've seen the kind of work we've done with young people. We are really considering a tie-up where we start up a course certification when it comes to security and closed body security. How open would you be to that, something like that?
I'd be very open and very keen. You know why? I think I missed your point on the previous question, and you were asking what skills would I look for, for example. If you were to do that, what would you be interested in and why? What skills? The skills are here. Like I said, the self-discipline of mind, attention to detail, somebody that comes into an interview who polishes their shoes. It might sound old-fashioned, but believe you me, it's the small things that matter. It shows attention to detail, being able to talk and be confident with yourself and learn. The biggest barrier I think people find in their whole life is ego. Ego is a terrible thing to have when it comes to trying to find a job, or whether you're in a job or in life in general. Now, we all have ego, but it's a question of how do you control that ego. And pride, as they say, pride has has its downfall. And in other words, I think it's important to always be willing to learn. I'm trying to learn all the time and be open to learning. And so that humbleness, confidence, attention to detail, polish your shoes, put on a tie for an interview, have respect in yourself, and people will have respect for you.
Well, Zane, thank you so much. We are at the end of our 30 minutes, and I won't keep you away from your day any longer. Thank you so much for being a part of this chat, and I'll see you.
Well, Abhishek, I just want to say thank you very much, and of course I support. We'll talk about in the future building something together. We've known each other for a long time, you and Sham. you've done some great things, and you know I've done other things with you in the past. I think what you're doing with Sealed is fantastic, and I encourage anybody also, if they want to, if you're confident and you want to try something new, come over to Protex and apply. Go for it.
Also, one thing. For everyone watching, Zane just started his own YouTube channel where he's doing some interesting stuff. It's called Zane Wilmans. Go out there and check it out. It's going to be a lot of fun, and hopefully once the lockdown lifts, we are going to see a lot more interesting aspects of Zane's life too.
Thank you very much, Abhishek. Thank you. And I just want to say, you know, it's very poorly produced because I wasn't able to get any equipment. Right, I couldn't go and get a stand or like a gimbal. It's just off the wall, fly off the wall, a bit of fun. Hopefully it'll develop into something a bit more interesting and serious in the future. And I just literally started Instagram yesterday.
Oh.
So I have kept myself away from social media for years because of my job. But unfortunately, we do live in this age. And so here I am. So any of you who are watching, if you want to be nice and help me out, go onto Instagram and follow me. And my Twitter is Zane Wilmans as well, @Zane Wilmans.
All right, great. Thank you so much, Zane. It's been a pleasure chatting with you.
Thank you to all the kind listeners. I really appreciate it. Thanks, Abhishek.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Namaste.
Namaste.